Hello, good day, everyone, and welcome to our this episode, which is the second episode in our series. This episode is introduced to you by Radio Coach, and it's sponsored by Innovation Creed, which is bringing to you subject matter experts from very interesting topics in leadership, team coaching, and culture transformation and culture development. Brought to you by Muhammad Sharafuddin, and today we're having a very interesting guest for the second time. Thank you, Chrisna, for joining us. Chrisna have been in her life. She has been working on the mind-body connection, and actually, she moved from being a researcher who is working in it from in and into out, and working it as getting her Ph.D. And then working afterwards as a coach to see the picture from outside in. And she is now the head of coaching in Neurozone, which is a very specialized place. And actually, I would love Chrisna to talk more about what they do in Neurozone, and actually the very interesting researches that they're doing there about resilience and the connection, the mind-body connection, teams, organizations, and leadership. Welcome, Chrisna, to the show. And today, I believe we will be talking about the high-performance energy.
Yeah.
Welcome, Chrisna.
Thanks, Mohammed. It's great to be here. Yeah. So Neurozone is a neuroanalytics company. We blend brain, analytics and concepts from neuroscience and neuropsychology and psychology and coaching. So it's a blended approach to look at specific behaviors through research, through current research in the field, but as well as driven by our own data systems. These key behaviors that really help you to build your resilience for high performance, and what you need to do to stay high performance ready at all times. And perhaps it would be easier to show our model and maybe just show a little bit how we approach it before we dive into high performance energy specifically. So you can show that first slide about the high performance domain model. So this is a model that we've been working on. It's evolved over the last 10 years, started out as a theoretical framework that has now been data driven and has become a predictive system. And as you can see, our model actually functions and looks at brain performance from most basic, from the brainstem through the emotional centers to the most sophisticated part of the brain, which is the prefrontal cortex. So if you look at the high performance rhythms in our model, so these are the most basic part of the brain that impacts brain performance there, the brainstem. So these are behaviors like exercise, sleep, nutrition, and mindfulness meditation, which is behaviors that you actually need to do, have daily rhythms of to optimize the wellness rhythms in your body, and they continuously drive a baseline relaxed physiological state, which at Neurozone we call the state of high performance readiness. And then we move through the emotional centers, which is those connectors looking at social safety and collective creativity, personal identity, purpose, belonging, meaning, all these important things that help us to survive as part of the group, which to our brain, after just keeping us alive, is still the most important thing. It's our brain unconsciously understands that our survival as part of the group is the biggest chance for our survival. And then the high performance energy domain we'll go into a little bit deeper now. These are really these behaviors that affect the dopamine reward system. These are behaviors that tell me, how important is this for me? How much energy should I assign to doing this? How can I define this goal, this thing that I want to do in the context of what really matters and what I would like to achieve? And we'll talk a little bit more about the high performance energy domain just now. And we go through those transformers, high performance transformers being mindset, belief system, mindfulness as a trait, these types of behaviors, systems awareness. Do I understand that, everything affects everything, and that me as part of this team, my performance affects the team and the team's performance affects the organization, and can you have that awareness all the time? And then we go all the way through to the prefrontal cortex, which are those high performance innovators, and those are behaviors and cognitive states like learning, cognitive flexibility, abstraction, generic parts, solution techniques, all these things that we apply. So Neurozone is all about brain performance. It's a high performance framework that we use. And
Wow. And
yeah,
I really love the model because it's really integrative, and it's, besides being simple, it also defines everything. So I believe you didn't miss, like a human trait, or something like a behavior that really connects to the mind body performance. And I really love what you're doing here in this, domain. And I'm really more interested even in the team coaching, and the organization reports that you came up with the last few years. So way to
yeah.
go, Neurozone. So,
Thanks, Ahmed. Yeah, I mean, this is quite exciting. What we're looking at now is about 80 plus different behaviors, cognitive states, emotional states that really impacts building resilience for high performance. And perhaps we can zone into high performance energy. And as you will see, everything really affects everything. High performance energy, as I said, it's all about that reward system, the dopamine reward system. So not to be confused with the energy that I burn in my cells when I inhale oxygen and eat food. That's a different type of energy, ATP energy. This is all about motivational energy. It is about what my brain pays attention to unconsciously and how that impacts energy to task allocation, and how can I optimize that. So these are behaviors such as gratitude, optimism. You could probably go to the next slide, Mohammed, where we can show gratitude, optimism, curiosity, some examples of energy boosting behaviors: humor, sense of humor; destructive habit avoidance; negative thought pattern reduction; friend charity even. So if we look at it from a very primitive perspective of, we understand that the brain is an energy efficient operating machine. It forms default pathways from repeated mental states, repeated actions, repeated language even that we use. Those pathways become stronger and stronger in the brain. And the reason for that is because default pathways take less energy to activate. So in the background, it's starting to automate processes that will, in this order of importance, help to keep me alive, help me survive. And with those two boxes are ticked, we can go into a mode of thriving. And that's what we want to achieve today, really. We want to get into high performance, and how do we remain high performance ready no matter what happens around us. The last 2 years have been a great experiment, laboratory for these things. And we do see what are the key things that will help us to remain high performance ready. And if you think about it from a translation perspective, right, take something like gratitude. If you practice gratitude daily, and gratitude isn't saying waking up every day and saying, oh, what are the things that I'm grateful for in my life? I'll wake up every day and say I'm grateful for my home and my dogs and my children, and then by day 3 it'll get old. I think it's about at the end of each day looking for something that happened that day that I'm grateful for. Over time, by cultivating that practice, you get into a mode where you start looking for things to list later that you're grateful for, which means that you're actually cultivating more optimism. And you're also occupying space that could be spent on negative thought patterns. And if you tell your brain, I'm grateful for these things, your brain sees it as, oh, great, goals are being met, I'm surviving adequately, therefore I can make more dopamine available for more complex thinking from the prefrontal cortex, which is really those cognitive, intensive processes that require lots and lots of energy. So it's about understanding, how do I inject these types of behaviors into my day as well.
wow. So I just, when we get this into coaching, I believe that you have already an assessment that comes up per individual about and reflects the model and these areas, right? So how do you present this to, hey, your energy is not good, so what are you going to do about it? So how is it presented in the development or the coaching development tracks, or the executive coaching? How do you
Yeah,
bring it in?
right. So we have our framework informs. We've developed a behavioral code which incorporates all these different behavioral mental states, mood states, cognitive states that informs building resilience for high performance. And this framework informs our assessment tools. So you could actually go and measure through questions. What does your high performance energy levels look like? Are you actually indulging daily in behaviors that are unconsciously depleting your performance energy? How can you up, behaviors that actually boost your performance energy? So we have a personal assessment that's it's an app-based assessment that comes with a downloadable PDF report that you could use for coaching as well. And what's great about it is it indicates what are the key behaviors that if you work on them first and foremost, that will give you the biggest bang for your buck. So that's what Neurozone is all about: low energy for high yield. What are the things that I need to work on first that will allow me to make more with the energy that I have? And that's what the assessment can provide you. But with the training, look, you could tell as a coach, for example, if you sit with a client in front of you, you can tell them, listen, you have to go bring more humor to your day, cultivate gratitude, and do some high intensity interval training, and optimize your sleep patterns. And the executive would say, listen, this is old news. I know that gratitude's great, and I know I have to exercise, I know I have to do these things. But what's really important is we've got these behaviors. But when you are a Neurozone coach and you actually come through the training, you use these behaviors and these assessment tools in a completely different way. So it's about translating them to what matters to you. So if I tell you, Mohammed, listen, you have to go cultivate gratitude daily, you'll be like, oh, it sounds like a great practice, but yeah, maybe I'll try it. But if you bring a personal goal to the table and you say, you know what, my energy is depleted all the time. I don't have enough energy in my day. I'm feeling quite anxious. Anxiety levels are high. Then I can position the practice of gratitude in the context of that. So what you are doing when you indulge in negative thought patterns, which often today is triggered by social media, you really have to choose what you pay your attention, where you give your attention. Those negative thought patterns deplete your energy in the background. So this is a way of shifting that. And at the same time, you're bonding and you're connecting by doing it maybe with your family or with your friends. What are we grateful for that happened today? So you're actually cultivating a mindset shift towards a more positive energy boosting state, which means that now you have more energy available for our performance.
I believe that that goes well with those who are, in a way, are self-conscious. I'm not, when you meet an addict, sometimes they deny that they're addicts, especially when we're addicted these days to anxiety, to maybe some people in social media, like always browsing their mobiles and the TikToks and this stuff, and actually porn addictions. There are some certain things that people actually deny, even that they're already practicing, that actually kills their energy. So how can you spot this? How can you actually, as a coach, and having like this kind of reports, if they just answer the question that they don't have anything like destructing their energy or depleting their energy, while they already have like being addicts, which actually plays a big role with the dopamine. So what happens here? How can a coach handle something like this?
Yeah, so I would say, the two core tenets of high performance readiness, to make sure that we stay high performance ready, that we make most with the energy that we have, that we optimize the dopamine system. The two core tenets of that is definitely to understand that the brain unconsciously pays attention to the most basic cue that threatens its survival. This unconscious attention determines the activation pattern. I will do what I've learned to do. I will do what I've maybe inherited to do. But the brain prioritizing removing a threat physically. So it's a physical stress response that by default most often get activated through, because we've evolved from running away from dinosaurs or away from lions on the Serengeti, but we are not running away from lions in the Serengeti anymore. We need our prefrontal cortex problem-solving brain when we are under stress. So it's important to understand that unconsciously your brain will be moving you away from a threat. And that you need to pay attention. And the second tenet that's really important is that high performance energy is finite. We don't make more of the stuff. We need to prioritize and optimize where our energy goes. And that is a conscious thing that we need to do. So as a coach working with a client, or even leaders working with their teams, what's really important to know with energy is how can, what are the key things? How can I start optimizing my energy? The first thing is pay attention. So we have, if you look at brain attentional networks, not to get too neuroscience-y in the moment, but maybe it's just worth mentioning. So the brain has three major attentional networks. There's the default mode network, which is the kind of network that runs when we're it's an idling state, like when I'm not paying attention and when I'm in mind wandering. It's these default pathways that can continue to keep me alive and help me survive without me thinking about it. It's what's been automated. Then we have the central executive network, which is all about conscious attention to cognitive problems, to solving my problems and to the highly creative and innovative work. So we need to focus, use our prefrontal cortex. And that requires lots of energy. The default mode network requires less energy because they strong pathways, default pathways take less energy to activate. And then the interesting one is the salience network. Now, the salience network is really the network that is the switch that decides how important is this for me, for my survival, for my goals, for what I'd like to achieve. And that salience network will determine where the energy goes. Is this really important? Can I pay attention to this? And then it goes to the central executive network and say, yes, we allocate lots of energy to this because we want to solve this complex problem. So it's really important to understand that we need to pay attention, and that's where mindfulness comes in. It's really a key behavior that we need to cultivate. When we stop, pause, and breathe, take a moment, create that space, think about what is happening, be observant, we can keep that default mode network activation low, and we see high activation in the central executive network, my problem-solving brain. So mindfulness allows me to make better sense of what's happening, and by cultivating it daily over time, I start taking it from a state of mind to a trait of mind, which means it becomes part of how I go about my day. I'm able to catch these mindful moments and make sense of my day as I'm going about it. The second really important thing is for coaches and leaders to understand when you set goals, there are certain things you can do to up the energy value that your brain assigns to that goal. For example, if you can position a goal in the context to what really matters to you, how does it relate to your values, your moral values, to your personality, to the things that you want to achieve, and you visualize what it feel like actually achieve. By doing that, your brain says, yes, I like this. Here's some dopamine. Here's some dopamine for high performance energy. Let us strategically plan how to get me closer to that goal. So it's about sitting with goal setting, which is different than goal directedness. Goal directedness is that unconscious driven process in the brain. Goal setting, you can do consciously, thinking about what would this mean in the context of my goal. Maybe I want to start exercising. Yes, I know exercise is good for me. But if I understand that by getting up early and exercising, I actually will have more energy in my day, more focus and attention of my work, maybe I will live a healthier, longer life for my children. What matters more to me? And the salience network picks up what's most salient. So I can tell myself I have to go exercise because it's good for me, or I can tell myself, yes, it's difficult to get up, it's cold, I don't want to go exercise, I'm tired. But understanding by doing this, I will achieve this and this and this, which is really important to me. And then the brain automatically assigns more energy, which makes it easier to do. You don't work harder to do it. It makes it easier to do because you have more energy available to actually do it. And then for coaches and sessions, and for leaders and meetings, how do you boost the energy of that session? Think about something like humor. When you crack a little joke, it just connects the group, right? Think about expressing your gratitude as a leader. Having each member of a team. This is a wonderful team coaching exercise. I've seen so many great results when you have each member of a team working together, list one thing of each other member that they really appreciate, and then reading that out loud. It connects that team, right? So you can see it's a connector as well. And curiosity is so important. Curiosity, if I want to learn more, if you go back to the most basic, primitive, survival-driven mechanisms of the brain, if I actively practice curiosity every single day, I'm telling my brain, I am receiving lots of information, which builds my resource library, which means I have more options for creative problem solving. So how do you energize that space of the team, of the coaching space as well? And then think about when you're working as well, for in any job that you do, there are certain things that you love to do that just energizes you. And with every job comes some things that you don't like to do that much. If you understand what it does to your energy, you can plan your day to inject energy boosting tasks in between energy depleting tasks and make more with the amount of energy that you have available. And I see you just showed that slide. I think it's important to show some of the data from COVID that we see. This is about, this data is from the first year or so of COVID, 1,500 global leaders. And we see these high performance energy behaviors became increasingly important in predicting resilience for high performance during COVID. These became the most important things. Really thinking about what I'm doing with my energy, what I'm paying attention to, and what that does to the amount of energy that I have available. Is it cultivating an optimistic mindset? Is it driving a more negative mental state? What is it doing to my energy became increasingly important.
Yeah,
And
can I yani, say something? Like you're putting here in high performance energy, you're putting all the things that actually make a human being a better human being. Like they're listed in positive psychology, and that's actually what we coaches, when we work with others, we're actually trying to promote, to create better humanity. And I believe focusing on this makes you a better human. And even for social connections and collective creativity, you are somebody everybody wants to work with. This who comes in with this energy in a way, like being curious, being open, humor, like optimistic, and actually being mindful, having gratitude towards others, doesn't induce negative thought patterns. I believe that this makes you a person people like to connect to and do business with.
that is
And
perfect. Yeah. That's that's the 100% on the mark observation there. That's why high performance energy is an emotional. These are emotional drivers, because your brain understands that after keeping my heart beating, helping me to continue breathing, the most important thing for me is surviving in groups. So, think about when you share a sense of humor with someone, it really connects and bonds you. It tells your brain, this person thinks like me. We both contribute to the groups that we belong to because we bring lighter side and some funny things to the group, which makes everyone laugh and it drives a more relaxed state and everyone feels good. So it bonds and connects us. And you could take each of those high performance energy behaviors exactly like that. And these are connectors. But they say gratitude is the currency of connection, basically, and it really it's right there on the money. And even with exercise, we see in our data how these behaviors impact each other. Exercise, for example, positively correlates with social safety as well. We saw that in our data. How interesting is that? Because exercise drives a more relaxed physiological state, which means we have more energy available to make better sense of our social interactions and optimize them and make sure that we bond and connect and make meaning together.
Yeah. So that's amazing. And the research results are really, having these from global leaders, it's really very, very, very interesting to share with everyone. So how does this impact the the teams and the organizations? Can you talk more about and talk about more about how you measured this within a team, within the organization? How can it impact others?
Yeah, so this our brain is, like I said, this energy efficient super machine, and it understands that when we share resources together, my survival in group, my chances for survival when I'm part of the group and I belong and I make meaning with the group is much higher than going about it as flying solo. And our brain understands this. But it also part of that equation is the energy equation. When we allocate resources together and we share collective creativity together, we optimize the amount of performance energy that we have available. And this is, this is just a way of showing how you can have an individual code for each individual and our assessment tools provide you with where do you fall on our resilience index, which was recently validated in a peer-reviewed journal as well, the resilience index that we use to measure, where you are in terms of, risk, burnout risk versus high performance. And you can get an individual code, what does your blueprint look like per individual? And then you can get a team code. So we've got the individual assessment in the app. We've got a team assessment, which is part of our high performance team report, which is a fantastic report we published. We actually launched last year. And with that, you get the team intervention. You could say if you have each individual assessment and their code and you have the team code and you start putting interventions together, you can see how my optimization of my resilience impacts the team, and the same for the organizational code in the end. We provide heat maps as well, where you can zoom out and look at the organization and say, where are the key teams that will give me the biggest bang for my buck if I start there? Low energy for high yield. Always, that's the whole formula that Neurozone operates on. And that's the organizational code as well, to understand. And you look, an individual needs to understand how this thing that I'd like to achieve, even my daily tasks at work, even the most mundane and most energy depleting of tasks, how can I position that in the context of my team's performance that my team needs to achieve their purpose? And how does the team's purpose fit into the organizational's purpose? And the more that you can position it like that, the higher the energy value assigned to achieving it in the, will become, making it easier to do because it makes sense.
Yeah, that's amazing. And actually, how you're displaying it in the report is really very interesting. I've seen one sample of it, and it's really, like mind shifting. And actually, it allows most of the companies to look at the employee wellness programs, like putting some exercise options, putting time for the team for, like getting them some, subscriptions to the gym, giving them some work-life balance, giving them some, it's something that's not optional anymore to get performing, unstressed, less anxious teams, which is mostly what most of the organizations currently are being. Most of the conversations I'm having these days with the leaders, that they're having serious issues with the team engagement and the stress they feel inside the workplace, and this engagement they feel from everybody, which is, looking at the exercise, gratitude, high performance energy factors, like things that needs to be induced in the culture and the leadership styles, and has to be enforced by social initiatives and by, wellness programs inside the organizations.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to awareness. You can only be aware of something that you learn. It's about curiosity and learning and wanting to understand how these things fit together, and then having that awareness and then shifting, a systemic shift within a company to create a culture of awareness, a culture of meaning making, a culture of connectedness and a mindfulness, the language, a more mindful way of operating in my meetings, all of these little behaviors, to have that awareness and start with leadership and having a trickle down, to the bottom line employees. They're really important to bond and connect everyone to understand that we still function as one system. We're a biological system, and everything affects everything in that system, and that's really important.
So can you tell me, how can, somebody who wants to use your tools or maybe introduce it to their organizations, how can you actually, what do you really offer here when it comes to, onboarding people on using the neuroscience and the Neurozone model and actually getting results and coaching with it?
Yeah, so at Neurozone, we've got a product house and we've got the coach training facility. The product house, these assessment tools that we have, the personal assessment in the app comes with lots of learnings, little podcast, science updates, etc. We've got the high performance team report, which is your team assessment in an organization. We do organizational heat maps as well. But those are standalone tools, so leaders can use them with their teams. You don't have to be certified to use the tools. But the training that we provide to coaches specifically, it's a continuous coaching education training. So we train coaches in how to embed this framework into their coaching practice. What's important here to distinguish is that many of our coaches don't necessarily use the tools. Some of them do if they work in large organizations, but it's about embedding this understanding, the principles into your practice. And you can do that with all the use of the tools. So we do that in the training. Of course, when you go through the training, as I mentioned earlier, you approach these recommendations that come from the assessment in a completely different way. When you understand high performance energy, when you understand the neuroscience of mindfulness and connection and all of that, you take those recommendations and you design something that speaks to the personalized goals that the client wants to achieve, to allow them to assign more energy, etc. So yeah, I can quickly tell you about the training we provide. It's a 12-week training, 6-week theory, 6-week practicals. Those are just some of the things that you'll achieve by doing the training. These are the concepts that we talk about, the drivers of brain performance, mindset, and the internal representations that we make, these brain attentional networks and energy to task allocations. How do you boost energy and up the energy value of your goals? Really talk about mindfulness, etc. And those are some of the upcoming dates that we have. You're welcome to contact me. We're still doing our launch special. The training was launched at the beginning of last year. And if you go to our website, you can read more about our personal assessment, which is an app-based assessment, as well as the team report, which is the last slide there. But you'll definitely find on the Neurozone website all the information you need, whether you are a leader or a coach or just a massive nerd that wants to deep dive into the world of neuroscience for high performance.
Massive nerd, yeah. I'm an engineer, and I don't know what you do with engineers, but I believe that in a way we are all so curious actually to learn more. When something is scientific, there is data, there is charts. You'll get our attention.
And I mean, that's the take-home message. That's what Neurozone is all about. It's about the credibility of the science. You do what you do best. You lead your teams. You do coaching. We bring the science, and we're all about the credibility of the science and keeping up to date with the latest on that. Yeah.
Thank you, Chrisna, for this very interesting discussion and all the value that you brought here today with talking about the high performance energy. I believe that we still have another episode that you promised us with, which is about the neuroscience of mindfulness. And this actually is, I'm waiting for it because of the most of the organizations that I work with and the leaders are talking about anxiety. People are anxious, and how mindfulness will bring a value here, and what neuroscience tells us about mindfulness. This will be our next episode. It's on Tuesday, the 2nd of August at 9 a.m. The same Cairo local time and South Africa local time. We are both on the same time zone. So I believe it's GMT plus 2. It's 7 a.m. GMT. So that would be a great pleasure to have you next month with the episode on neuroscience and mindfulness with Neurozone again. Thank you, Chrisna, for your time today. And would you like to say maybe a conclusive statement for our, before closing, just, the golden nuggets before leaving here?
Pay attention. I think let's set the scene for next week. It's all about what you pay attention to and how you do your goal setting, making sure that your brain assigns the right amount of energy to what you'd like to achieve. And next week we'll understand and deep dive, or next month, the neuroscience of mindfulness and how that relates to connection. And in the end, to these salient networks, right, that determines where the attention goes, where the energy goes. So really, really important, paying attention. And we'll talk more about that in the next episode. Thanks.
Thank you, Chrisna. And this is Muhammad Yusri. He's an engineer too, one of the geeks I know, lifetime geeks. And thanks for the insightful episode. And that's one of our audience today. Thank you, Chrisna, and see you next month with next episode on neuroscience coaching. Will be on the 2nd of August. And follow actually my page on LinkedIn, so that you can actually get the new feeds on and the new episodes for Radio Coach and Innovation Creed. That's and Authentic Coaching Academy. Thank you, Chrisna, and thank you everyone, and have a great day today. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.